if you had to start today, Nick, to build a new startup, how would you find an idea, validate it, build it, and distribute it? This is Nick. He grew SideShift to $8 million a year and just moved to his new office in New York. But his startup wasn't meant to become a UGC platform. It started as a local job marketplace.
In the mornings, we were breaking into dorms to pass out flyers so we could get users for the marketplace. And then in the day, we were knocking on business owners' doors and seeing if they would, be an early adopter of.
But Tech Twitter had a better idea.
And what ended up happening is Tech Twitter kind of got a hold of our product. And Tech Twitter started, going onto the platform, posing as small businesses, and was hiring college students to do UGC.
In this episode, you will discover how Nick and his co-founder built an $8 million a year startup, how to use UGC to get viral with your product, and finally, his complete playbook to build a $1 million startup in 2026. So Nick, you built SideShift. You started in 2023 as a local jobs marketplace for Gen Z before pivoting into UGC. You went from 0 to 2.4 million ARR in 12 months, which is crazy. Can you just take me back when it started?
100%. So it was my senior year at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. My co-founders and I had started, playing around with the idea of building a marketplace specifically. And the idea that we landed upon was a labor marketplace. We saw a lot of friction in helping, in the way that students found jobs on campus. We thought that the hiring process was extremely fragmented, paper applications, people walking into a lot of these brick and mortar stores. And we thought that we could automate this amongst college towns. We were naive, didn't really do much market research, didn't really know about Indeed or any of these huge, massive players that dominate the space. But, I think that was a good thing actually at the start because we just started building. And we spent about 6 months developing an MVP. And then from there, we launched it. We went door to door. We went into dorms to get our first users, door to door to get our first customers. And, next thing we knew, we had a very poor but functioning marketplace that was, completing its primary function of connecting students with bars and restaurants on campus. And we then graduated in May of 2024, and everyone went full time on this idea. So we thought it was time to scale. We had Madison that was kind of working, had like 3,000 students on the platform, and 20 businesses or so who were hiring. Keep in mind, these businesses were paying us little to no money, maybe like $10 a month. That was like the top subscription. But, we were young and we were naive and we were like, we're just going to build this and we're going to make it work no matter what. So that summer we continued to refine the product as much as we could. I mean, the product was terrible throughout the entire life cycle, of this V1 of SideShift. But we went to all of these other college towns, right? So we started in Wisconsin-Madison, which is in the Midwest, and then we went to all these other Big Ten schools and SEC schools. So we went to Michigan, Iowa. Where else did we go? We went to Georgia. We went to Texas. We went to Ohio State, Indiana. All of these places tried to grow and scale the marketplace. We would essentially go to each campus for 10 days at a given time, and then we would try and do as much land and grab expansion as we could. So in the mornings, we were breaking into dorms, posing as faculty to pass out flyers so we could get users for the marketplace. And then in the day, we would go door to door, knocking on business owners' doors and seeing if they would take a meeting with us and if they would, be an early adopter of SideShift in their town. Now, we ran this playbook for about 6 months, and then we, kind of had a pivotal moment where things weren't working as well as we had hoped. Everyone was full-time on this. We had graduated university. We had around 10,000 students on the platform, maybe even less. And our businesses were just not paying us any revenue. I think we did the math. It was going to take us like 7 years to get to $1 million in ARR, right? And we kind of had this epiphany where we realized, we have such a really strong supply side of our marketplace. We have a generation that is hungry and eager to earn cash through, non-traditional means. And what ended up happening is Tech Twitter kind of got a hold of our product, and Tech Twitter started, going onto the platform, posing as small businesses, and was hiring college students to do UGC. This was about a year ago. And a lot of these creators were extremely down with it right away. Or I should say students at this point. A lot of these students were down with it because, they were chronically online, they were tech savvy, they know how to pick up their phone and create content, since the nature of UGC is that anyone can create content. So, we had a lot of early brands on SideShift that was kind of shaping the pivot and the V2 of the platform. And it wasn't until we kind of looked at user activity around a year ago where we saw that, okay, no local jobs or no local business owners were really using the platform after a month. But for some reason, these indie hackers, this tech Twitter side of people, was using the marketplace to hire content creators. And like I said, we really let them shape the future of the product. So we started building out, proper tooling for these brands. We started re-engineering the profiles to be, student job profiles to creator profiles, starting to show things like, top videos and experiences and top posts to continue to seamlessly make, these hires happen across the board, right? And I would say it really wasn't until last summer when we went full bore on creating the premier UGC marketplace, where creators of all shapes and sizes now, not just college students, can come onto SideShift and start working with, some of the hottest brands, whether that's people like, Brex, a handful of consumer apps like Suno or PixArt, movie studios like Paramount Pictures, record labels, and really everything in between. So started off with a really strong foothold in the recruitment market, then pivoted to specifically recruiting for UGC creators and facilitating those connections. And where we are now is we have built out the operating system for these brands to never leave SideShift and to run their entire creator programs directly within the platform. So we now support not just the recruitment of creators, but we, now support the handling of analytics, the management, the correspondence, the payouts, the legal, the tax, the 1099s. It's really a one-stop shop for a brand to come and, kind of meet or kind of get all of their UGC needs delivered to them. So whether they're running a small 5-person creator program or a 100-person creator program, they can do that on SideShift at really a minimal headaches, if that makes sense. So that was kind of the whole journey of, how it really started and, where we've landed. So I would say the key pivotal moment though was definitely those early tech Twitter people who started to shape the platform for us, and we just listened to our market and made that pivot.
Man, that's crazy. So you literally let it happen naturally to you. It's people who decided how to use your platform, and you thought it was a smart idea. You let them do it, and you pushed in their way, and it happened.
We just listened to our users at the end of the day. And I think, when I think back at that period when we didn't have product market fit and we were trying to force this marketplace into existence, we just weren't listening to our customers, right? They would tell us this isn't a need, there's not a pain point here. And we just kept trying to force it and force it and force it. And, luckily the supply side was able to work things out. But, we completely had to re-engineer what type of employers we had on SideShift, and that was the brands and the people looking to run UGC specifically.
So listening to your customer was one of the biggest lesson that you got from it. Is there like
Mhm.
anything else that you learn in between 2023 to 2026 building SideShift?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I still think that listening to customers is one of the biggest advantages we have over competitors. We chat with customers daily. Everyone has an individualized Slack. We're always making appearances in there, whether it's, just helping out with simple product requests, bug fixes, or just generally kind of like, shooting the shit with everyone. These customers have really become our friends. And now that we have, you know, almost 800 active customers. It's gotten hard to manage and keep up, but I still think that's one of our values that really sets us apart is just these personalized relationships that we have with people, right? Like everyone has my number, every single customer has my number. They can text me whenever, hop on a FaceTime. I really don't see my customers as customers, and more so I just see them as friends at the end of the day.
Is it hard to manage a SaaS that have two faces? Like one face is actually recruiting Gen Z or student to get a job, and the other side is actually recruiting people who are ready to hire them. How do you divide that? Like, is there two
Yeah.
team? Like, how do you do that?
100%. That's always been one of the hardest pieces, right? And I think what you're saying is, how do you shape a product for all of the creators? How do you get them to sign up to SideShift and to, start working with brands? And how do you attract those people? And, you know, luckily we do run really large UGC programs ourselves, using our own creators, talking about how if you download SideShift, you can have an unreal earning opportunity outside, a traditional 9 to 5. You can pick up your phone and start creating content for brands, and you can now be paid to post, right? So turn posting into profit essentially. And it's a little bit of a consumer mindset for all of our creators, right? Because majority of them use our mobile app. We have a great iOS team. We just shipped an insanely huge mobile revamp that has uh, really increased the overall satisfaction level of the mobile experience. Um, but to your point, yes, it is ridiculously hard. The messaging is different. You know, all of these things. It's almost like building two companies at once, right? And then on the SaaS side, the brand side, luckily word of mouth referrals really taken over there. We have a really strong inbound funnel. I'd say inbound is about 80% of our sales, 20% is outbound. And yeah, the biggest thing that I've always struggled with is like, how do we, have different messaging for each customer, I guess, but still keep it universal for both sides. And, I think the way that we do that is by labeling SideShift as the distribution hub, really of the future, right? I think creators understand that message that they can come on, they can start earning, they can start posting and, get paid for their distribution, and brands can leverage distribution at an unparalleled level they've never seen before.
So you basically have a B2C and B2B SaaS.
Correct.
Like you like,
Yes.
but the one who pay you are the B2B. What is the
Correct.
easiest for you? What is the easiest distribution? I think it's probably UGC on the B2C side, but yeah, what is the easiest for you?
The easiest way on the user side has always been to take our best creators, reward them, and have them create more content for us. Some of the top earners on SideShift are earning between $20 to $35,000 a month, which is an insane amount. We love to work with those people. We have really close relationships with obviously our top creators. But to answer your question, that is, definitely the easier form of distribution that we have. Right.
On the B2B, are you more like into, you have closers? Like, what is the kind of distribution on the B2B side for you?
Yeah. So B2B and, a lot of that revenue generation, that's where I spend a lot of my time. It's where my co-founder Canyon spends a lot of his time. That's where our head of partnership spends a lot of his time. So it's really us three. We're starting to expand the team out a little bit. We're building a sales team right now just because of how many leads we're getting and how hard it is to, make sure that all these leads that come in end up as a paying customer on SideShift. And we essentially have an array of different tools that we use. But one of the things, again, that really sets us apart is everyone is having a personalized touch with every single person that onboards onto SideShift, right? If they end up becoming a paid customer, that's amazing. If not, we made, a new friend and we learned about a new business, and they might not end up using us, but they might tell a friend. I've ran into that multiple times where people are like, hey, this actually isn't a fit, but my friend runs growth at, so-and-so company. I'm going to refer them over to you guys. And that's where a lot of our business comes from. It's just really strong brand name recognition.
I see. And you're currently at 8 million ARR, which is a lot of money. I have a question to ask you because I just renamed this podcast and now it's Profitable Founder. Are you profitable?
I like that. I actually saw that on Twitter. Looks great.
I,
Great rename.
and are you profitable?
We are profitable, right? And I think that comes from us just having a lot of customers, and SaaS does become profitable over time. We're very cautious with the money that we do spend, so our burn is extremely low. I think that's important to always kind of keep that mantra, especially as you scale, right? Just because you make more money doesn't mean you need to just start spending money on, random flashy things that don't really serve much purpose. It's better just to continue to keep the same mindset that you had when you were a scrappy, sub 1 million ARR company, in my opinion.
So, a question that I think a lot of people ask themselves, like now you have a company making a lot of money every year. Did your life change drastically in between 2023, you going to dorms trying to sell your Jaws marketplace, to Nick now making 8 million a year?
Yeah, I mean, my life has definitely changed, right? When we started the company, we were in the Midwest, we were in Wisconsin, we were working out of a apartment that we turned into an office. And, slowly over time, as we got more product market fit and onboarded more customers and just, built a better company. Um, Again, we've been able to keep our burn low, which is nice, right? And I think like the only thing that we've really spent money on is our new office, I would say. But that was something that we really believe in. Everyone's in person on our team. It's a huge value that we have. The feedback loop is a lot tighter that way. And overall, we're just trying to be focused on building a really great culture where everyone is extremely fired up to come into work, especially with where we're at. I think it's great traction that we do have, but I think the war is far from over, and we are just well positioned to own the entire industry right now. And that's what we are focused on, and that's our mission. And that's why everyone's in the office from, 9 a.m. to 9 at night.
I know that a lot of people, including me, are hesitating to raise money or not. Like the Bootstrapped path is pretty sexy, but raising money to actually build something big like you did with SideShift is also really sexy in a way. How did it help you to raise money?
Yeah. So, I mean, we've never really raised that much capital at the end of the day. I think the proper term for where we're at is seed strapped, in the sense where you raise a little bit of capital to kind of just get off the ground, right? And over time, try and build an extremely profitable business, right? One that's, very attractive to an array of different people. And I don't think, it's a one size fits all answer. I think if you're deciding whether to raise money or to stay bootstrapped completely, you really need to figure out what type of company you're building, right? There's no shame or there's no problem in building an extremely great cash flowing business that, prints a couple $1,000,000 a year. Now, if you want to build, obviously, a unicorn, it's going to take a little bit of capital to get there. don't get me wrong, there's been outliers. MailChimp was like a $20 billion company, never raised a dollar of funding. Um, you know, but I think the reason that you raise capital is for a couple of reasons. One, is competition arising in the market. The second is just speed. And third is obviously to support growth, right? Like if you're actually hiring so many people that you need more capital, it is a good sign at the end of the day. But the biggest thing that I would say to founders debating whether should I raise money or should I not raise money is to really just be honest about the outcome that you want for your business, right? And for us personally, we're trying to build a billion-dollar company. That's what we've always set out to do. That's where our ambitions are. We want to own this entire market of distribution. And, I think that's kind of how our narrative is being written right now.
So I got David Park a few weeks ago on the podcast, and he talked about the fact that he also did seed strapping. I got
Mhm.
Travis in the meantime, and he said that seed strapping is cool, but then the investors are not looking for a seed strapping. Usually they are looking for other wave of raising. How did you do that? Like you had the idea. When did you actually raise money, and how did it happen?
Yeah, so the original funding that we raised was friends and family round, and that was more so just trying to get our story out there and trying to make sure that the people who were investing, even if it was such a little amount, you know, were able to really just believe in us as founders and know that, what we're building right now, and that was the V1, might not be the end result, but hey, I believe in these guys. I think they have what it takes. I'm willing to take a bet on their character. And, that's kind of how that happened. Obviously, later down the line, we ended up raising a little bit more money. But that first round of friends and family is the one that like sticks out to me, right? Because it's easy to write a check when you have traction, you have all this, hype and buzz and noise around you. But it's the people who believe in you from day one and are willing to bet on your character and not just, your P&L.
I see. Well, congrats for SideShift. Really big numbers, and I think there is a bright future on the tool. Instead of
Thank you.
asking you like what SideShift does,
Mhm.
now I would like to understand how do I make millions with UGC? Because that's basically, what you want for people who use SideShift.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
for who is UGC?
So UGC is either for, if you are a creator and you want to earn cash from posting, you believe in content, it's something that you aspire to do, you can join SideShift as a creator that way, start posting for an array of different brands. Right. We make it extremely easy. Mobile app is centered around gamification, training, really taking everyday people and turning them into creators. Now, the piece that I'll focus a little bit more on in your question is the latter, right? How do consumer apps, how do e-commerce brands, print with UGC? And the reason that UGC works so well is because a lot of these algorithms are unweighted. And what that really means is that you don't need zero or you don't need 100,000 followers to go viral anymore. You can go viral with zero followers today. And what that looks like in practice for successful creator campaigns is essentially hiring a cohort of a dozen creators, having them post anywhere from 30 to 60 times on a brand new account that is dedicated to pushing the message of their product, right? The best videos that we see that go viral, that convert for brands, whether it is, a movie, a consumer app, an e-commerce product, whatever it may be, these are all videos that feel extremely personal. They just show up on your For You page, right? Because the best way to influence a set of people is to not make them feel like they're being influenced. It's why paid ads, or not paid ads, but why influencer has gone down so much in recent years, right? It's the consumer sentiment around seeing a video from Kim Kardashian, who people know is being paid millions of dollars to say an exact script, is not the same as seeing your neighbor talk about this amazing new, calorie counter app that has changed his life and has helped his, you know, physique go from being overweight to in shape, and just seeing like the real effects that has on a human, and being able to connect with them on a personal level, right? And that's really what SideShift allows brands to do. So with our 700,000 zero-based creators is what we like to call them, they can essentially spin up these high volume campaigns where they have their creators posting over 300 videos in a single month, and they're looking for those organic winners, right? And the organic winners are the ones that go viral. It's a VC centric approach as well, where, out of 300 videos, only 10 might go viral, but that's okay because it's those 10 that will change the course, of your company, right? And, we're seeing it take off in so many new industries right now, which is so exciting. But we're just really focused on building the operating system to support all of these emerging industries who are starting to leverage, high volume UGC.
You said you do not need creators in your niche. That idea is holding your brand back. Next gen UGC creators aren't experts, they are micro actors. They research, adapt, and perform. Like,
Yes.
I like this because I see that a lot. I didn't understand it before, and now it's clear for me. But can you explain
Mhm.
that? Yeah, it's they're basically my
Yeah.
creator.
I would love to explain that, because that is one of the biggest objections I get when I talk to people. So for example, I'll get someone who, inbounds to the platform, and they are building a, let's say, a mental health app. And they'll think that they need mental health creators, people who have only ever done mental health content. But that's actually not the way to go viral, because if you think about, all you're doing is you're just gaming the algorithm, right? And you're gaming the algorithm with a sheer amount of volume. So the creator that you're actually going to want is someone who understands how to hack this algorithm. Someone who is consistently going to post those 60 videos, is going to have good lighting, is going to have captions that are clearly readable, or on screen, right? When brands start thinking that they need creators in a specific niche, it actually really ends up holding them back, because, sometimes they have extremely, extremely small niches that don't have a lot of creators in them. And, we still have a lot, but, we don't have like woodworking carpentry creators. I mean, I'm sure we do, but you just need people who understand how to hack the algorithm. And that's really the cohort of creators that we have on SideShift. They understand everything that I've just talked about. They understand, why brands are doing this and what it means for them and how conversions are happening. Traditional creators, who are still a little bit in that influencer micro creator market, they haven't necessarily kind of adapted to this new wave of distribution. So there's a little bit of a gap in the market there right now. But at the end of the day, the high volume creators that we have, they are micro actors at the end of the day, right? And I think I said in that tweet, like, you know, Brad Pitt wasn't cast in F1 because he was a race car driver. He was cast in F1 because he's a great actor and he understands how to have a screen presence and how to hold frame and, how to captivate an audience. And that's the same thing that these SideShift creators are doing, just at a much smaller scale.
I really like that because I think it's like a mental shift. In a way, it's like you are hiring your casting. Like, for example, you will try a woman, a man, you will try different type of body. For example, if you want to sell a skincare product or
Yes.
whatever, but you're not looking for someone who is an expert in the industry. You're looking for a good actor that would
Hmm.
represent your product, right?
Exactly. Exactly. That's all you're looking for, at the end of the day. And I wish that that mindset would change for brands, because they could start working with so many amazing creators if they, kind of had that paradigm shift.
Mhm. And if I'm watching this video, I don't have the budget yet to work with SideShift, or I don't need to manage all my creators because I don't have any. I'm just starting myself. Where do I start actually?
So the first thing that I recommend to people who don't have budget, first of all, they can always reach out to me on Twitter. I'll always field questions and point them in the right direction. But if they don't have any budget, I would say they need to create a TikTok account for whatever their new product is, and they need to start posting on it. They need to understand what it is like to be a UGC creator before they can start directing other creators. Now, when we first started UGC, right, I was posting 4 times a day across 5 accounts, so over 20 posts a day, and I was just doing this so I could get reps in, so I could understand, like, how this market works. Why is it growing? I have 0 followers. Will videos really go viral? And sure enough, after, 3 weeks, I had my first viral video. It got, like, 5 million views. I was completely ecstatic, and I was like, "Okay, this is why brands are shifting to this form of distribution. I can see that it's clearly working. I've had a firsthand experience with it. And I always recommend to people who are trying to get into UGC without budget to actually just pick up the phone themselves and start creating. That way they can understand what hooks work, what are all these like metrics that they're looking for, analytics, watch time, engagement, things like that. What does that actually mean? And then they can start, kind of taking their findings and building a repeatable system around it.
Okay, so only when they figure out what works, then can actually start hiring people.
Yes. Or the new thing right now that people are really looking for is the UGC engineer, right? And I'm sure you've seen that all over your feed, but essentially the UGC engineer is gone through that entire trajectory that I just described, but instead of them, starting a company, they're just a creator working with a brand who really understands the algorithm, who now understands what archetype is being, necessarily favored for a specific product. And now they can build a team. They can build those repeatable systems. They can run an entire SideShift account from start to finish and just put this on autopilot for brands. And that's where I think we're going to start to see a lot of scale in 2026.
You know what? I never heard about it. So, like, basically, I hire a UGC engineer. He figured out with me my brand, the vision, and what kind of UGC campaign can work. Then
Right.
once we figure out that, we hire a team of micro actor that will
Hmm.
actually reproduce what works. And then
Correct.
after that, I need to manage all these people. And you said it in one of your posts as well, that the bottleneck isn't to hire the good influencers or the good UGC, is actually to
Mhm.
manage. Why is it so hard to manage creators, and what are the problems that you're facing when you manage?
Yeah. So the problem with managing that's always been so tough for people is people just don't have the domain expertise, right? And that's why I said it's pretty imperative for people who are running UGC to do the UGC first themselves so they like properly understand what to look for, how to edit videos, how to do these video reviews, how to like hire and filter for the best creators. Um, Managing itself is actually not that difficult when you have great creators. And luckily, we try to provide the best creators to our customers that we can. But one of the like kind of the best pro tip I have for people who are managing creators and don't have a UGC engineer is make sure that you build camaraderie and rapport with your creator team, right? And what that really means is talking to these people on Slack or on, SideShift's new messaging system or whatever it may be, to really make sure that everyone's bought in. Leaderboards, send merch out to people, shout people out for doing a good job. That's where managing starts to become easier because people are so bought in and you go from kind of being like 2 steps behind to actually being ahead because people are excited to create content for your brand. They're bringing you fresh ideas. They're helping other creators in your, community or whatever it may be. And that's also where I think, a good program turns into a great program.
Do you have any insane case studies to share, like, crazy numbers of one of your clients who actually like use UGC, went from this to this?
Sure. I mean, I think a good example that I can share, you might be familiar, Voodoo, huge game studio out of Paris. They acquired Be Real for 500 million. They're doing $700 million a year in revenue. They were on side shift trying to, promote new game of theirs, paper.io, right? And they're spending a lot of money on paid ads and all this stuff at the end of the day. And, they were looking for a way to scale organic social. They had worked with influencers, they had CPMs that were extremely high, but they were looking for a way to truly scale organic social and get these astronomically low CPMs that everyone's after at the end of the day. So in the span of a month, they went from 0 to 90 million views. And that was an incredible lift for them. Another one that comes to mind is some of our e-commerce brands that, we're starting to see arise on the platform more. All in Motion, that's a brand from Target specifically, 25 million views in the first month. And then we have Yapper, who is run by Emmett Halm. He's a great founder, and he's really leveraged SideShift in an extremely unique way. He has an extremely huge program doing over 80 million views a month. So we have dozens and dozens of case studies like that. Our own programs generate anywhere from, 50 to 60 million views a month. And, I would say that's probably the best case study of them all, is that our own product works for our own growth, giving us a really great flywheel.
I really love UGC, and I have myself to get into that a little bit more because I see people like Jack Freaks just killing it with UGC, with their small product. He do it himself with his girlfriend. It works amazingly well. And then you have like company, startup, like you just described, that have insane amount of money already and already do paid ads and then scale with UGC. What is for you the best like level to actually start working with a tool like yours?
Yeah. So I would say so people ask that question all the time, and, you can start with SideShift on a free trial, on a 7-day free trial. The budget that I always have people set aside is around, 1,500 to 2,000 for creator payments. Now that'll get you a lot of videos, just with today's market rates on these creators. So let's say you hire 4 creators to test things out, right? And you do a $500 base. $500, you're going to get 30 to 60 videos with that. And then you add on, your view bonus incentives on top, or a CPM. But that is a good amount of volume to test with to see how UGC performs for you, right? You have 4 creators, 30 posts each, over 120 pieces of content. If you are not really able to discern what things look like after 120 pieces of content, then you might have to go back to the drawing board. But it doesn't need to be a viral video in that 120. It can just be the slightest sign that, this was resonating with an audience. This hook resonated. It didn't get even 10,000 views, but it got 5,000, got 6,000, so there are legs here at the end of the day. And I would say that the strongest brands, the way that they're leveraging it now is they're using UGC to go viral on organic social, but they're also using it to test dozens and dozens of ad creatives at the same time. Meaning when they have a video that pops off and goes viral on SideShift, you can download the video directly. You have all the IP and usage rights behind all these per your contract with creators. But they'll take these viral winners where they traditionally had to test, with a couple $100 for a single asset. Now they're testing for free. They get the benefit when the video goes viral for free. And then they can put that into their paid ads machine. And that way they can also scale, with paid ads. So it's not just kind of a one-stop shop, right? The UGC really continues to grow, I guess, is a good way to say it.
Yeah, and I think knowing a lot of people spending insane amount of money into paid ads, you need a lot of creatives. Like you need that every single week. So if other people can actually do the work for you, and on top of that, you can go viral organically, I think that's a good win-win. I will pick up your brain for something that I know a lot of people want to know. You built a successful SaaS, SideShift, 8 million ARR, amazing amount of money. How do I replicate that in 2026? Like if you had to start today, Nick, to build a new startup, How will you find an idea, validate it, build it,
Yep.
and distribute it?
So I think one of the best ways to find an idea is one, you can check TikTok comment sections for niches that you're interested in, right? And what that really means is someone who just is in there complaining about, a very small problem that they have. And then it's your job as an entrepreneur to extrapolate from there, right? Another way that I think was great is, let's say that you are really interested in building what's a good example? Building a prediction market. That might be a bad example. Those are hard. Those are really hard to build. But let's stick with calorie counter, just for simplicity reasons. You can go and search up all of the popular calorie counter apps and then start to read all of the reviews. Now you're going to filter for all of the poor reviews because that's going to tell you exactly the gap in that product. Now, you don't necessarily need to reinvent the wheel. And I think that innovation comes in a lot of different forms. Sometimes it's just about making something 25% better than a full 100% better. In our case, we're trying to create a new market and make it 1,000% better. But if I were starting over and I was like, how can I speed run to 10K MRR? I would look for products that are already doing extremely well. I would then go and read their app store reviews and see where the fallacies lie. And I would start to hone in on those and, start to uncover and see if other people are having that problem within that specific market. And that's what I would start to build for. When I have an idea, I would really, really, really dial in distribution. I think that you actually don't need any money to start UGC. And that was what I was talking about earlier. I would find a great technical co-founder if you're not technical yourself, but I would find someone who is extremely technical. I would then spend my time producing the most amount of UGC humanly possible, whether that's, 20 posts a day, or even 30 posts a day. That is what I would spend all my time perfecting, just because I've seen one viral video take a product from like, okay, this is like a little fun side hustle that I'm hacking on to actually being a real company. And I've just seen the power and I've seen the magnitudes of it. So I would just hammer distribution because in the early days, it's all about just validating your product and finding product market fit and getting early customers. Obviously, as you scale, you delegate different responsibilities and you have a whole new set of challenges. But if it was true early days and I was trying to get to 10K MRR, I would legitimately spend an ungodly amount of time on short form platforms, just trying to, manipulate the shit out of them, essentially trying to get videos to go viral. And I don't care if that takes 30 videos or 40 or 50, I would do as much volume as possible because I know that since the algorithms are unweighted, one will go viral and it will change the course of my life.
Will you start on your own account or will you start a brand new account or different brand new account to publish?
Brand new account. I'd start a brand new account specific to that niche. I would warm it up. If I'm building the calorie counter app, I would warm it up in the fitness niche. I'd be searching up, fitness content. I'd be engaging. So that way, when I do start posting my content, it gets distributed out to that exact demographic that I'm looking to get in front of.
Tell me if I'm wrong, but you really have to dissociate personal branding building public with UGC. If you are doing UGC or like start a brand new account for your brand, is acting compared to your personal brand. Sometimes it's acting, but the thing is more building public, right?
100%. I think build in public is great for brand awareness, and it really depends on the market that you're in at the end of the day. But building in public for a sheer consumer product isn't necessarily going to drive you conversion at the end of the day. And that's what you're looking for when it's early days, right? Like I think building in public is great and building a following, but if you can't actually turn that audience into anything, then I would just spend most of my time, trying to beef up my UGC accounts, right? If you're building, but for example, like if you're building, exactly what I'm building, it makes sense to try and build up your personal brand a little bit, given that a lot of our B2B inbound comes from word of mouth, referrals, brand presence. So it's important there, but it really depends on the niche that you're in. And once you get to a certain point, yes, personal brand all the way, but true early days, you got to pick and choose your battles. And I think it's best to try and just validate product, get product market fit, and get early customers.
What kind of founder are you, Nick? Are you the technical founder, the CEO, the guy who has a lot of idea, the organization guy?
Yeah, so I am not the organization guy and I'm not the technical founder. I've always been one that's, tried to lead the ship and try and discern where we're going with this company, what we're building, what market we're looking to disrupt. That being said, I spent a lot of my time on revenue generation. That's, what brings me a lot of pride and joy is just, all of these different sales motions, whether it's inbound or outbound, trying to bring in as much money to the business as possible. But I have two other co-founders, Drew, he's our CTO, he's technical. I have Canyon, who's not technical. He's our COO. The way that I like to describe it, right, is, Drew has built the engine of the ship, which is the product. And Canyon is the one who is able to keep the engine running, right? And I would say that, I more so am at the helm in directing where the company is heading, and, all of these decisions that we're making surrounding, what does our culture look like? What are we building for? How do I find the best people possible, get them bought into our mission, and, really bring us one step closer to building a billion-dollar company?
If I have your profile, how do I end up in your position? I ask this question because a person like you don't do anything without a product. Like you have the vision, you have the ID, but you need people who actually build the engine, as you said. So how do you end up in your position right now?
So we got really fortunate. When we first started, it was just Canyon and I, two non-technical guys, running around the University of Madison, Wisconsin, trying to find someone to build this product. We did like Fiverr, Upwork, handful. This is before vibe coding was a thing. So every product we got back, since we could like clearly extrapolate what our thinking was a mess. Um, I mean, I don't know if it necessarily counts, but I do product design at the end of the day. So I was able to, at least get pretty proficient in Figma and help shape a lot of product design and, product decisions that way. Um, but luckily, Drew was, he was Canyon and I. He's one of our best friends, extremely technical, extremely gifted when it comes to, that side of things. But if we didn't have Drew, I think what we would have done is we would have tried to leverage more of these, networks to help find technical people. Like, for example, Y Combinator co-founder Match is a great one. I don't think you should ever like outsource completely from the beginning. If you're trying to build a true company, you should, look for a co-founder who's technical, who's going to be bought in with you. And, it might take some time, especially if you're not technical, to convince someone to join. But that's where, as a non-technical person, your sales skills need to shine through. You need to talk about, how this company is going to change their life and what you're building for and what you're looking to disrupt. So that would be my advice. Practical advice, use a platform like YC Co-Founder Match. Heard some good success stories out of there. Reddit, or just have a best friend who's an extremely gifted programmer, which might not be the case for everyone.
And another personal question, like, there is this ikigai stuff, like you should do like what you're good at, like with your skill and everything, and find the center of it. Did you actually like find yourself in a good position? Like, how did you end up understanding exactly what you were made for?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I think I kind of have this belief that you should really double down on what you're good at the end of the day. I don't think that you should necessarily, uh, you know, I don't think that you should necessarily try and be something you're not. For me, I'm really good at talking to people. I'm really good at getting people bought in. I'm really good at getting people to join our mission, to buy our product. That's like where I spend a lot of my time, and that's what I love to do. Um, I I truly like try to double down on that as much as I can, right? I do like product design a lot. I work with other designers as much as I can, but majority of my time and where I've found myself is, how can I talk to as many people and try to, you know, I don't want to say convince, but more so inspire to join our mission as a customer, as a creator, as an employee, whatever it may be.
Yeah, I like that. I think it's really important because it's pretty hard to understand that, but I really join you on this. You should also give up on things that you're not good at. For
Right.
example, for me, I tried to learn to code because I wanted to understand, but I know that I don't enjoy that. I will never be a good developer, so I have to give up on that and then actually find a co-founder who is technical like you did.
Yes,
Mm.
100%. That's kind of what it's all about.
Is there a last thing you have to say to someone watching this and who want to build $1 million startup like you did?
Last thing I would say, my closing remark is that you must be persistent in this game. You're going to face a lot of adversity, a lot of setbacks. A lot of your ideas aren't going to work, but you have to be prepared to be persistent, to double down when things aren't working. And, it's kind of just go big or go home at the end of the day. But we have a saying, and it's that, nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. That's how we've survived this long and, have now flourished. But I truly believe that nothing in the world can take the place of persistence.
Amazing. Well, Nick, thanks for your time, and I will see you soon.
Thank you very much, brother.